World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Premiumbeat.com.
Office without limits. Slash your telco costs. Boost agent productivity and customer service. Web conferencing for all. Never miss a call. .3CX, everywhere you go, on premise or in the cloud. 3cx.com.
saħħalsulhom il-fuel ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub.
Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqaf.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Well, good evening everyone, good morning and good afternoon as well, and welcome along to the very first round of a brand new championship. This is the Malta National GT3 Championship 2021, fueled by Enemed, and of course brought to you also by Gaming Malta, the Malta Motorsport Federation, 3CX and Vibe as well. Wherever you're watching us, whether it be on YouTube, on Facebook and on Twitch, it's great to have you along, and of course all of those watching on the Esports Television Network, Motorsport TV and of course TVM Sport. Can you imagine if a top prize was to represent your country in the FIA Motorsport Games? Well, that's exactly what the line is here for these drivers tonight, to represent their country at the Motorsport Games. Myself, Kieran McGinley, and of course Chris Buxton here to take you through the very first round of a brand new championship. And Chris, new championship feeling, new championship vibes. I'm looking forward to seeing what can happen here.
It's that usual air of anticipation, isn't it? Whilst the grid may not be as big as some other championships, it is packed full of talent. And what a prize, as you were saying. What an opportunity for these drivers to represent their country at the upcoming championships. And what a venue we are kicking off at. Now, Zandvoort is our first destination of this series. It's, well, the best way to sum this up is it is twisty and it is challenging, very challenging. And we are packing GT3 cars around this track. This is going to be phenomenal. What a test of our driver's skill.
It is going to be as well. They're all being thrown into the McLaren 720S GT3 with fixed setups, so they can't go around changing tyre pressures, changing suspension, anything like that. The car they get is the car they race. So it pretty much is going to be single make, one make, and it's going to be the driver making the difference out there on track. And as you said, Chris, 10 drivers here, but they've all got very good prizes on the line. The top 7, if you finish in the championship in the top 7, you'll be guaranteed a prize. For example, second place, €1,000, third place, €500, and fourth to seventh gets goodie bags all around as well. And just to take you through that, I mean, fourth place will be going home with a GT Omega ART cockpit. Fifth place will be going home with a HyperX Cloud 2 wireless headset. Sixth place with a HyperX Alloy Elite 2 keyboard. Seventh place with a HyperX Pulsefire Haste Mouse and Fury S mouse mat bundle. So lots of prizes on the line, and thank you to our sponsors there for providing us with those prizes to give to our drivers. And over the next 10 weeks, I think they're going to show us that they're going to earn them. A little bit about our drivers. Some of them have been very familiar to World Pro Racing before. You may have seen some of these names here at World Pro Racing before. Others you may not have. all of it at the World Pro Racing facility. So no online, no from different parts of Malta. It's all in the same place, all in the same simulators. So it should provide some really good action as well. And we'll be able to bring you pictures of the simulation facility. There they all are, getting some practice in before we get started here. And what the interesting thing was, Chris, about 7 of them were just sort of around the simulators, just on their mobile phone. I guess that's the way of pre-race nerves and managing those. I get pre-race nerves. I wouldn't be able to do that, but they made it look easy.
Yeah, that's the sign of a pro, isn't it? Is they make the difficult look easy. And yeah, as you can quite clearly see, they're all on the exact same triple monitor setup, all with the same exact thing. They could not make this any more level playing field if they tried. And just look at it. I'm barely containing my jealousy. I'd love to be down there with them. I'd be hopeless because these guys are absolutely fantastic. But I really am admiring the setup we have got for this series. And this is the opening round. So, we've got this throughout the series. And, the grand finale in September at Monza, it's 8 rounds we can look forward to in this setup, in this series, to crown the champion towards the end of it. And I get the feeling that we are in for some fantastic racing throughout. And, again, looking at the track list we've got is absolutely monstrous. It's such a wide variety of tracks. Some more open, some more twisty and technical, such as Zandvoort that we're going to be at tonight. Yeah, I'm so looking forward to this, just in case you couldn't tell.
Yeah, and the guys were telling us beforehand that there's air conditioning in that place, but making sure that the drivers keep their cool is going to be another scenario entirely. Well, we will find out very shortly how they're getting on. They've got half-hour practice. That's followed by 15 minutes of qualifying, then a 30-minute race after that. So that's something for the drivers to get stuck into. So this is pretty much their practice session, I do believe, making their way out there now. And only the 10 drivers. I say only, it's not the quantity of the drivers, it's the quality of the racing. That is the priority. And we all know they've had to go through already 2 rounds of qualification. So they had their first hot lap qualification weekend over the weekend of the 3rd of July. They had a second round of that as well going into the 10th of July. So they've whittled this down to the 10 fastest drivers that made it through that qualification process. And they are here now. So these drivers haven't just turned up, they've qualified, they've earned their right to be here, and so that should give us some fantastic racing upcoming.
Yeah, completely. And they're representing some pretty big names, and names that we're regularly seeing around World Pro and other areas of sim racing. We've got Andrea Rizzo, Dean Vella, a very much a common race-winning name here at World Pro Racing. We've got Christian Ebeyer and Sheldon Muscat, all representing GT Omega. I mean, that's a powerhouse in itself. We've also got RPM GT Esports as well, being represented by Gianluigi Carraro. So, some lesser-known names, as you were saying earlier, Kieran, but they're representing some big hitters, and these people don't mess about. They know talent when they see it. So, again, there's some names to look forward to. Yeah, Mikel Matiesa is a solo entrant as well, along with Kane Maeda. A really we've got some big hitters out there, but being mixed in with some unknowns, I love that, because you can just never tell, especially in the opening round. You can't say, oh well, that's a four. Dean Vella's going to run off with it, which you might be forgiven for thinking if you'd seen his previous form, which you and I both have in the series here at World Pro Racing. But he's not invincible, and this is a very different car to what I commentated on Dean Vella on before. GT3 cars, in my opinion, aren't naturally suited to Zandvoort. Like I say, it's very tight, very twisty. He's pretty damn unforgiving as well. So it's going to be really, really interesting on how the established names make good with the lesser known names.
Absolutely, and it's great to see them back there into these simulation rigs and just seeing them actually in person, giving it their all. I mean, we've seen some snapshots and some of the drivers putting in their effort. Of course, they've got that ominous camera looming over them, so I'm sure they'll be used at some point over the course of the evening. But I mean, look, we've said it before. These are the 10 fastest drivers from that qualification process, and they're going to try and prove that here. As you said, it's a very, very narrow circuit. For GT3 racing, qualifying here is going to be critical because there's a circuit with a lot of undulation, quite narrow, as you said, unforgiving. The walls are never too far away, and there's lots of medium speed corners, which for overtaking is going to be difficult.
Very much so. One of the drivers right in the middle of the room's got Nicky Lauda staring at them. I mean, the late great Nicky Lauda, he was a man to apply pressure to anybody, and his visage will continue to do so. So I don't envy the person that's in the rig right in the middle. But yeah, you're absolutely right, Kieran. This track is really going to sort those that can adapt very quickly to a track that Zandvoort is not necessarily a lesser known track, but in these cars, it's not so common. It tends to be single seaters. Single seaters and two wheels, are more common around Zandvoort. GT cars can go anywhere, of course they can, but there's certain combinations that any racer would know. Monza in pretty much anything, Spa in an endurance setting, Le Mans in anything with a engine and big enough fuel tank to last. There's certain combinations that any sim racer just genetically knows, and it's combinations like this that go against that kind of modus operandi, that kind of natural way of thinking. That transferable skill just isn't there in every single combination. So again, it's why I'm particularly looking forward to this race.
And if you are familiar with R Factor 2, we can take you through that calendar. So the first round at Zandvoort, then the next round on the 23rd of July, which is the Friday, Mills Metropark will be the venue for the second round. Third round will be at Portugal. I think that's the Algarve circuit there. Round number 4 on the 6th of August at Lime Rock Park. Then it's the 21st of August. We have a week break before round number 5 at the Botnia Ring. Then round 6 at Portland. Round 7 at Loch Drummond on the 4th of September. Before you say the finals in Monza in early September there. So quite a huge range of real life tracks and some fictional tracks thrown in there as well. If you're a fan of R Factor 2, you'll recognise about Mills Metropark. You'll know how narrow that is. It's a long track with lots of medium speed sweeping corners with the odd hairpin thrown in as well. I mean, I remember that track all the way back in 2007, first racing on it on R Factor, and yeah, it's a very good track there. Very open track at parts, but it can get very, very narrow as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that goes on Friday next time around. But let's not focus about Mills Metropark. Let's focus on Zandvoort here today. Another narrow, flowing circuit. They've got 30 minutes of practice that they're going through right now. Then it's 15 minutes of qualifying. And looking at the calendar here, I think this is going to be one of the most critical, one of the most important qualifying sessions of all of the calendar so far.
I'd say you're right. Yeah, because this track is so challenging and there's so few realistic overtaking opportunities that puts more emphasis on the qualifying importance. Now in GT cars, they can deal with a bit of door banging more so than single seaters can. Coming on to what you were saying about track comparison as well, I love the fact that we're starting in Zandvoort that is, as we've said, very tight and twisty, and finishing in the classic of Monza that is as wide as a motorway, and it's just all out right foot to the floor minus a few twiddly bits. So yeah, what a brilliant eclectic mixture we've got, but it really tests the full range of our drivers' abilities. I wouldn't be at all surprised if we have different challenges for the top podium step in most weeks.
Absolutely. And I believe now we're going to move over to the adjudication over at the Simulation Centre with a few words with the stewards. I believe Adrian Figallo and George Muscat being the stewards for tonight. So let's go and have a word with them. Adrian, can you hear us at all?
Here I do.
Hi, Adrian.
Good evening.
Good evening. How are you, good sir? Looking forward to tonight?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously enough, it's the first time that we're doing it live from here, as you have seen, and it's a bit more exciting, being live directly from the center and having the drivers just behind us. But obviously enough, it's going to be from our side the same like any other race, yeah.
And what's the atmosphere like down there? Because as you said, it's your first race at this new simulation centre with these simulators set up. I mean, what's the general mood down there? How are the drivers?
Yeah, the drivers are fine. Obviously enough, they already had their qualifiers here. So they're also partly, let's put it this way, excited because of the whole championship and what it can lead you to. So that's basically it.
And is there anything in particular you've made clear to the drivers you're going to be what's looking for, and track limits or any contact?
Yeah, as usual, we'll be obviously looking closely on the track, and obviously enough looking for unsportsmanlike behavior or any misbehavior on track. They're all drivers of certain experience, so we're expecting, let's put it this way, some clean races from them and obviously some fun races.
And it's a great lineup of tracks coming up. What do you make of Zandvoort then?
Okay, I like obviously Zandvoort itself. It's quite fast, tricky at times, but I think it's going to be an enjoyable race.
Well, I'm sure it will be. We're seeing some of those cars going through that long banked final corner. But Adrian, it's a pleasure to talk to you. Hopefully you have a quiet evening in your sake, and good luck with everything tonight.
Thank you very much, and good luck to you guys also.
Thank you very much.
Thank
and that's Adrian Figaya there, the race director for all 10 races, and George Muscat alongside him as well as the steward as well. But yeah, atmosphere seems pretty good down there. Obviously, as Adrian was saying, these drivers have been here before. They've been in the simulators before for their qualifying runs a couple of weeks ago. But the general mood down there is good, and obviously they're going to be cracking down on track limits and contact. No surprises with that answer, really.
No, and the World Pro Racing stewards have a reputation for, firm but fair. They'll throw the rule book around when it is needed and give obviously due leniency and common sense, etc., etc. I love that camera. As we were talking to Adrian there, particularly the rig on the right, the view we were seeing from the chase cam of whoever's footage that was, really highlighted the huge undulation that goes on at this particular track and how narrow it is. A place is barely 2 cars wide. And in these things, people are going to have to be quite creative, but well behaved, of course, on how they go about making their passes, because it's a big challenge. I think we might have mentioned that once or twice.
We might have mentioned it once or twice, but saying it again doesn't really make a difference, because we've got to hammer home the point that it is going to be a tricky race if you don't have a good qualifying session. And if we've found the 10 fastest drivers who've turned up here, it's going to be tricky to actually make an overtake, let alone at a wide circuit like you've got Monza coming up at the end there. You've got heavy braking zones after long straights, which can aid with the overtaking. However, here at Zandvoort, with half an hour around a very narrow track, not going to be so easy. But, we've got all this talk. I can't wait to get started. The drivers here, I think we've got around about just under 20 minutes of practice to go before we launch ourselves into qualifying. Of course, we'll keep you fully up to date with that one. But there's some drivers we know of and some drivers we don't. We've talked about this before. You've already talked about Dean Vella, who actually won the last time World Pro Racing went racing on Thursday night, the AMD GT4 Championship. He had his first win on the 5 races there. And his previous best finish in that championship was 12th place. He comes to the final round and then wins it. So that was a great leapfrog into tonight. You really want the momentum to come to you in the races leading up to this multinational GT3 championship.
Absolutely. And it's like you said earlier, the prize on offer is huge. I mean, what a great opportunity to represent your country in a field that you love. That, let's face it, we all do in motor racing fans and sim racing fans. That's why we do what we do, and why we enjoy the content that's being provided and the racing going on. But that puts some pressure on, and that's another thing as well. Everyone being in the same centre, you don't have those little home comforts. You don't have, it's not your seat, it's not your rig. And those sort of things can make a difference to the mental game. This is something that we've both discussed at length before. The mind games that go on, all those little things that help you suddenly aren't there. And you've now got this, obviously high pressure situation with a very big prize on the line. Everyone is around you and there's cameras pointing at you. Not everybody can handle that. So again, looking forward to seeing how our drivers do.
Yeah, there'll be cameras pointing at you. There'll be 2 people from far away shouting over everything you do. Speaking of which, let's probably get you out onto the track then. Let's have a look at some of these drivers taking you onto the Zandvoort track. And we join you now with just over 11 minutes of practice to go as the drivers make their way all the way through. And I believe that's Scott Muscat at the top of the timing standings there. Mikhail Murchieka in second place right now. 33.9 is the fastest lap in this practice session so far. 9 drivers out there tonight. Obviously, we were expecting 10, but we've only got the 9 here. Here comes Murchieka towards the line then to set another lap time in this session and, well, improves now to within 0.03 of a second of Scott Muscat up ahead.
I have no bones about saying that particularly that purple colour scheme that we've just seen, that's a gorgeous beast. I'm a big fan of the 720. No bones about admitting that, and these things look spectacular. As we now head over to Sheldon Muscat, working his way through the twisties, currently on the top spot as mentioned, 133.964, just 28 thousandths ahead of the lap we've just seen completed by Mercheta. Wow, very, very close indeed. Dean Vaya not far behind, half a second in that third place spot. Is this an improvement? No, this is an outlap, so we're just seeing Sheldon begin his next lap of this mighty Zandvoort circuit.
Indeed, we are. Goes top of the standings, of course, with that 33.964 as he now winds his way down through Gerlach and now in towards this dipping section here, really riding the curb as we make our way in towards Hugenholz and then back onto the power. The track then ascends as you apply the power there, so just be careful not to spin up those rear tyres. There is Sheldon Scott Muscat then as he now makes his way through in towards turns 4, then turn 5 through Rob Slottermacher, and then in towards this long turn 7 at Shivlek here. Then on towards Masters, where you're using that little bit of curb here. There's a little bit of a twitch to the left. Then you chuck it right into Masters. Then in towards turn 9 there, really getting onto the curb on the left-hand side of the track, turning in for turn 9. Then back onto the power. Then a bit of a twitch on the rear end before we get in towards turn 10 there. Slightly deeper into the corner, a bit narrower entry to the corner than expected. But back onto the power now as you now go over the crest towards Hans Ernst. Back over in towards sector 3 now, down the gears in towards the quick right then left. It's a long left there and there's plenty of undulation as you make your way through that long left-hander. Back onto the power then towards Kubo. And you've got to get, well, actually, Sheldon Scott Muscat getting slightly onto the grass. That might compromise if he's just onto the curb then through Leyendijk and back onto the power all the way through that banking there. That's the new banking brought in last year. And then towards the line we will go, and Sheldon Muscat across the line, 34.8 that time around. I'm not surprised with the fact that he went onto the grass a couple of times on that lap.
Yeah, he's been dethroned by fellow Muscat. Oh, Jason, there he is in the very brightly green coloured car. And also Mercheta has taken that second spot back again. So whilst we were watching Scott do his lap, Jason and Mercheta also doing this. And now there's a face of concentration. Whereas Scott looked very relaxed, didn't he? One point taking one half off the wheel to scratch his nose. That is a very firm face of focus there in Jason Muscat. Throws it into Tarzan, gets the car in. But something I also noticed with Scott Muscat's lap is that car was very lively. There's a lot of horses under the right foot of these cars, and his car looked really, really loose, whereas Jason's looks really, really planted.
Absolutely, and there is Jason Muscat then as he goes through the gears then all the way through, and now making his way on towards that legendary Rob Slottermacher. It's obviously called something else in the previous years. In towards Shivlek we go, back onto the power once again, that slight kink to the left, then on towards Masters, and all the way through we go, and that little bit of a camera just above the driver there. I'm sure he will be looking, I'm sure he'll not even notice the camera there over the past or the next hour or so. It will just be second nature. He won't notice it at all, but he now makes his way all the way through, back onto the power, out and on towards Hanshurst, and you can't really see this braking point until you get over the crest. Then you make your way in towards this quick right left, and again the track falls away from you as you're trying to turn in, so it's very, very easy for the car to bottom out there. Now onwards towards Kumo and towards the final 2 corners, then on towards Ari Leyendijk corner through this long banked right turn and onwards then towards the start finish line. So he's currently set at 33.384, but he's coming into the pit lane then to no doubt make some last minute setups. There's Mikhail Mercheka then on an out lap, and we'll go for another lap here. I wonder when the line crosses where you go from race sims then in towards quali sim. I'm assuming this is going to be close to it now with only 6 minutes on the clock. So it's Sheldon Muscat, it's the number 10 of Jason Muscat leading the way then. Mercheka in second place. Then it's the number 9 then of Vela, who's currently in third. Then it's Sheldon Muscat in 4th place, Rizzo in 5th, Vela in 6th, Kirsten Abeya in 7th, with Gianluigi Corrao in 8th, and then it's Foster rounding off the top 9. Colin Foster at the KNC Racing for the KNC Racing team. Just 5.5 minutes to go then, and the top 4 separated by just over half a second. That's not bad. That's not bad going for the race, is it, really?
Not at all. And you're watching Mercheta as well. Just look at, he's not so much doing it here, but he's been really fighting his car quite a bit throughout his lap. Whereas when we were watching Jason, it looked really smooth and flowing, and it seems to be showing in the lap times as well. I mean, if Macheka is fighting his car and he's only second, then if he finds that sweet spot in the setup, he is going to be monstrously quick. And again, I no bones about admitting that that's a glorious colour scheme on that car as he's chasing down someone. Oh, that's right, in Colin Foster's car. Yet to see, he's a little bit off the pace, so I think it's fair to say he may not have set a particularly representative lap time. Probably still trying to fine-tune the car to his liking and to optimize his performance in track. There he is. Fine beard on Colin as well. Always admire that. So again, it's going to be interesting to see how well these guys can tune the cars, because like we said before, this track is not forgiving at all. It's very, very twisty and bumpy in a number of places. There's a monstrous banking. You almost fall out of the car. It's pretty steep. As Colin Foster comes down to the line. Also bear in mind, this is still practice. This isn't the qualifying session yet, as Colin knocks another second off this time. Also, we don't know how much time he's put in to practice leading up to this event. Oh, now that's a gorgeous colour in Bernard Vela. I was going to notice we had 2 Velas on circuit. So Dean Vela we are familiar with. Bernard Vela I personally am less familiar with, and there he is. In the insert, jumps up to 4th. That I was just seeing that those times are very, very close. And it's actually the 2 Velas side by side on row 2 were this to be qualifying, and they're only, what are they, a 10th and a bit apart. So, wow, pace runs in the front. Whoa, that's lively. Oh, and he's caught it as well. Well, he was lucky that was a left-hander that was coming up. I mean, great showmanship, sir. Bravo.
I tell you what, that's not luck, that's skill.
He caught that one brilliantly well.
He did, didn't he? And it made it look cool, made it look like he meant it to happen. Kirsten Abeya across the line and to start a new flying lap. And just a bit of kick of the grass then as he makes his way through there. Might have unsettled the car slightly as he made his way through, but no matter. He's going to press on and make sure if he sees if he can just make his way through. No, it's not going to happen like that, though. Way too much speed through there, and a big whack of the wall in towards that flying left-hander at Hugenholz. So that's not going to do any good then. But luckily, in R-Factor 2, you can just hit escape, go back to the garage, and you've got a brand new car to use. Obviously, you can only do that in practice and qualifying. If you did it in the race, I think it might be used slightly too much.
Yeah, just a little bit. Oh, wow, that was a huge hit off the apex there from Sheldon Muscat. And if that was a real-life car, you'd have felt that through your spine. That was a big hit. And you can just see now he's just coasting. I wouldn't be surprised if that indeed caused some damage to the car, because he clouted that pretty hard. But that's the fine line that these drivers need to make between shaving those, every single millisecond, every single millimetre they can take to get that best line, and it being that little bit too much. And the car then becomes airborne. It looks like, is he going to come into the pits this time? I mean, I thought if he damaged it, he probably would have recovered back to the pits, but it looks like he's lining up for one more run, maybe 2 if he can beat the flag. Just 1.5 minutes to go before this practice session ends. No, he's right foot is planted, and away he goes for another run.
Another run indeed, and looking at the lap times then, it's going to be close, isn't it? He might get 1 run for sure, but will he get 2? No idea. Well, we'll find out, won't we? Here comes Sheldon Muscat then, making his way through Gerlach, and now on towards Hugenholz with the back end twitching all the way through, now in towards that banked turn 3, then back onto the power. We will go then, using all of that curb and more on the exit. of Hugenholtz and on towards Hunzerug, and now making our way through turn 4 and 5, and then on towards Rob Slottermacher, now in towards Schieblich here, where the track descends as you try and turn in, and that back end then is really twitching on Sheldon Muscat then, as he now makes his way on towards Masters, and now in towards turn 9, which comes at you very quickly. Lots of right-handers in this section as you try and turn the car in, and so the tyre temperatures on the left-hand side can go through the roof if you're not careful. Now in towards turn 10 then, and you'll see then Sheldon Muscat taking a slightly narrower entrance in towards turn 10. You'll see that little bit of a darker rubber there where we're expecting the racing line to be, but Sheldon clearly feeling that the tighter line through there is buying him time. Now making our way in towards Hans Ernst, in towards that left-hander that the track dips away from you in through turns 12, and now on the power once again in towards Kubo, back onto the throttle out of here, back onto that curb and through that long right-hander of Ari Luyendijk corner. The heavy banking allowing you to take that flat out as he makes his way towards the line. Will he beat the checker flag? No, he won't. He'll cross the line then and finish in 5th place. He improved on that, but no, he didn't. He was just about a 10th off of that one, but the checker flag comes out in this practice session. So far then, it's Jason Muscat who's fastest. Mercheka crosses the line, goes 3rd fastest in this practice session. There's Kirsten Abeya then, 7th fastest in this practice session so far, as he now makes his way through this last part of the track, braking hard then in towards Hans Ernst. And you know, it's very tricky, that quick right, and then you have to turn the car left as the track falls away from you towards the apex there, and I think he's gone back to the garage then, vanished without a trace. Qualifying then coming up very, very shortly, so practice telling us then that the top 4 are going to be ones to watch in this one.
Mistakes are going to be costly in this race when the pace is that close, and even towards the tail end of the field, we've still got drivers that are very, very close in pace. Maybe not quite in the freight of the top half, in the pace of the top half, but I think we're going to have racing throughout the field. I think Colin Foster seems to be struggling a little bit. He's obviously proven his pace to have gotten this far. Let's not forget that these are still drivers that have beaten the rest. These are still the very best of the qualifiers that have gotten this far. So this isn't an open invite situation at this point. So these have already seen off the rest of the competition, so they all deserve to be very pleased with their performance thus far. So, and we also might find that there will be some drivers that do well here and not so well in other places. So we can't really read into the form book at all at this point as far as the season's concerned. But for this one, if the practice is anything to go by, this qualifying is going to be close.
Be close, isn't it? I would say so, especially within that top 4. The first 2 rows are going to be very, very close indeed. And we saw there Jason Muscat setting the fastest time in the practice session. The form book goes out the window then, and this qualifying session, 15 minutes, gets underway. So at best, with an outlap, you've got 5 laps. So let's see what the drivers can do as they make their way out onto the track. You can see that they're just making sure they go through the vitals. They'll all be on an outlap at the moment, and we'll hopefully join them once they get onto their flying laps as we take you down onto the track. There is Jason Muscat, who was fastest in the practice session, now making his way through the track and just trying to warm up the vitals as well, get some heat into the tyres and the brakes as well. And this is going to be something that's interesting as well, because as we've already talked about, there's a lot of right-handers here and a lot of high-speed right-handers. So you've got to try and manage the tyre temperatures on the left-hand side, because, Chris, these are fixed setups. They can't make any changes to tyre pressure. They can't make any changes to the camber to try and aid with that tyre overheating problem. This is something they're going to have to do themselves as drivers.
Absolutely, and a fixed setup, whilst it does provide a level playing field, of course, everybody using the same equipment, one setup doesn't fit everybody. So it's how well these drivers are going to adapt to how this car behaves. And we've seen the differences already where the likes of Jason Muscat, fastest in the practice session we've just seen. The car just seemed to glide. It was very, very smooth. Yet the Czech's car seemed absolutely all over the place. The pace was still very, very close. And that could also be how they're driving the car. It could be personal preference as well. Some people prefer the car to just be very on a knife edge, very ready to kill you. As you might be able to tell, that's not the way I prefer to do it. Oh, Jason Muscat, the tail, getting very, very loose on the number 10 there as he was coming through Shivlak. So, I mean, caught it brilliantly well. But yeah, some people prefer the car to be a bit more stable, a bit more predictable. That's the camp I tend to be in. But then there might be a reason why I'm not one of the drivers, because I'm not a sim racer. That's why I always go for the commentary box. But it's wonderful to see how well these guys deal with this level playing field. It's something that's very fascinating.
You're in good company with a stable setup, that's for sure. That's the way I would go. I'd want a predictable car. I want the car to do what I tell it to do. As Jason Muscat now makes his way out of Hans Ernst and now on towards Kuba, then the final 2 corners of this track. There he is then, Jason Muscat. Oh, that back end swapped on him there, and he abandons that lap time. No surprise there, coming back to the pit lane, but that's valuable time lost, because although he can go straight back to the pit lane, he still then has to put in an outlap, which we're looking at, 1 minute 40 for an outlap once you've made your way out of the pit lane and warmed up the vitals of the car. So, now he's got about 9 minutes left on the clock to set those lap times, and by that point you've got about 2 or 3 chances then.
Yep, and the nerves are going to be jangled by that as well. As we were discussing earlier, the qualifying is absolutely crucial here. You can't rely on a mistake from others. I mean, here we are watching Dean Vella in this gloriously very McLaren-esque livery on the McLaren as well. Currently at the top of the table with that 33.9. We've, of course, seen quicker than that in the practice session. He's already going quicker than that just about in Sector 1. And again, Dean Vella is a ferocious opponent to be up against. So you can't rely on someone of his caliber to make a mistake. That's not to say that he's bulletproof, but again, some of these people carry reputations with them. So I'm not surprised if a few nerves are jangling a little bit, as we've seen from Justin Muscat. So we'll see. Just needs to settle himself down. Easy for me to say from the commentary box. I grant you, again, the prize on offer is a big one, but it's. The prize isn't won on one race alone, so hopefully he'll be able to settle himself down and get back into the pace we've already seen.
Yeah, it's the pace that's got him there, as Dean Vella now goes quickest in the qualifying session, sets a purple 3rd sector as well, puts himself now at the top of the table. Sheldon Scott Muscat, though, now 33.531, now on that provisional pole position. Here comes Jason Muscat then through the gears, and now on towards the start-finish line to get a hot lap on the board. He's on his outlap right now as he makes his way towards the line as, at the number 4, that's Bernard Vella, now goes within 0.04 of a second of Sheldon Scott Muscat's qualifying time. So that's pretty good as well. That's going to be nice and tight at the top. Then in 3rd place is Dean Vella in the number 9. So it's Bernard Vella in the number 4. It's Dean Vella in the number 9. That's how you can tell the difference between the two. And then it's Mikhail Merchieka in the number 11 car. Kirsten Abeya in 5th. Then it is Andrea Rizzo in 6th place. Then it's Colin Foster in 7th place, and then we're still awaiting the lap times of Jason Muscat, who are watching here tackle his way on through Shivlak. And we've also got the number 2 car of Gianluigi Corrao, so we're expecting those lap times to come in very soon. In fact, we're expecting Jason Muscat's time to be in very soon, and he's gone purple by 0.2 of a second through the 1st sector. This looks like it's going to be a mega lap, Chris.
And look at this now, the car is just really well balanced. Maybe he has just sort of sat himself down and thought, no, come on, calm down. He knows where he's made those mistakes, and he's now really getting on with it. No traffic already ahead of him. Yes, he's only a 9-car field, but that doesn't mean that the racing is going to be any less ferocious. So again, the way that the pace is looking from these times, I say it's going to be very tight. It's lost a tiny bit of time in Sector 2 compared to Scott Muscat. And here we go through Ari Nijndijk. Let's see how he's going to do. He's got someone ahead of him, but that shouldn't be enough to put him off. Now, most of the time's coming in. What can Jason do? He's obviously had to bin 1 lap already. Is it going to be pole? Yes, it is. Good. 1/10 of a second. Oh, so it's the Muscats on the front row, the Veyers then on row 2 at the moment, if it will end like this. But again, look how close that is.
It's mightily close, isn't it? Just over half a second covering the top 4, and under 0.2 of a second covering our top 3 at the moment. Mikhail Merchieka in that number 11. He was on a flying lap, decided to come back to the pit lane, and he did clip a little bit of gravel there. That might have been the reason why he abandoned that lap time. Kirsten Abeya then currently 6th fastest at the moment with a 1:33. A 1:30. 35. It's a 35. I was trying to work out the maths there. Math is not my strong point, if you couldn't already tell. But
35.3, basically.
There we go. Yes. So just under 2 seconds adrift of the provisional pole position time, but currently on an out lap as he now makes his way in towards the final sector. And that car did not want to turn at all. He got a little uneasy. Clipped the grass on the left-hand side just as he was braking, going in towards Hans Erst, and that car just did not want to slow down after that.
Yeah, I'm afraid you won't get away with that line. We noticed slightly. But here comes Gianluigi Corral to hopefully improve on his time. He's got this 2.5 seconds down at the moment. Does he improve? Not on that time, but again, that car is just looking ferociously quick. A little deep, though, into Tarzan. Needs to kind of tidy that up. Oops, and then kicks up a bit of dust through, heading down towards Gerlach. Looking a little bit loose for Corral at the moment. Hopefully you'll be able to settle that down. In the background of the shot, we did see Abayo. I think he had a big spin at Tarzan, so he's really struggling out there at the moment.
At the moment, but we've still got just over 6 minutes of this qualifying session left, so there's still plenty of time for Corral to get that lap time on the board. And obviously we know he's a quick driver. He's one of those that qualified to get here in the first place, so maybe just a few first night nerves as that was just a little bit too much speed going in towards Masters End. The back end swapped it in, managed to gather it up as he now makes his way through turn 9, back onto the power we go, then through turn 10. And taking his line through there, back onto the power we go. Got to be careful not to apply the throttle too early, otherwise you'll understeer. There is curb on the outside there, but it's not the quickest line through. You've got to avoid that curb on the right-hand side. Now making our way now down in towards Hans Ernst as he goes right, then flicks the car left to try and get the car turned in before you go down that massive dip. And yeah, you just don't want the car bottoming out there. There's nothing you can do about the setup. It's just the line you have to take. Then onwards through the penultimate corner at Kumo, and then in towards Arie Luijendijk corner, through that long banking and on towards the start-finish line. Can he improve on 8th place? Can he improve on his lap time? He can. He goes 7th fastest then, just over 2 seconds off that provisional pole time, but it gets him ever closer to that 6th place of Kirsten Abea.
Yeah, so again, you've got a lovely pack forming there. 6, 7, 8, Abaya, Corral and Rizzo. And this is what I was referring to earlier. You've got this lovely pack at the tail end of the field and a wonderful pack at the front. So again, racing everywhere.
Racing everywhere. Here's Dean Vella then making his way now through and racing through Hans Ernst as he now gets back onto the power towards Kubo and then in towards that final corner, Arie Luijendijk corner. On towards the curb we go, opening up the next corner. It's heavily banked, so you can try and take as much speed through there as possible, flat out in pretty much any car you can take there because of that banking. And onwards towards the start finish line, Develop will go. Can he improve on his time or his position? No, he improves on neither at the moment. Stays 4th fastest. I say that, but Mercheka now has just gone 4th fastest with his new latest lap time. Puts himself now onto the 2nd row of the grid. Got a driver making their way out of the pit lane. I think that's Corral who's just made his way out of the pits. 4 minutes left on the clock then. At the moment, it's Sheldon Muscat who's on top with a 33.360. Then it's the number 10 of Jason Muscat, just over half a tenth off of that provisional pole position time. It's Bernard Vella in 3rd place with Mikhail Mercheka. We're watching him now tackle throh Shivlak now in 4th place. Dean Vella is in 5th place with Kirsten Abea in 6th. Gianluigi Corrao in 7th place. Andrea Rizzo in 8th. And then it's Colin Foster who rounds off the top 9 drivers. There is Jason Muscat then 2nd place on an outlap. You have to say, Chris, this is very late on in the session to have an outlap. This could be last chance saloon for Jason Muscat now.
Some people prefer that. Some people just leave it to the very, very last second. They may well thrive in the pressure. They feel the track's rubbed in as best as they can. Also, traffic. I don't think people are going to need to worry too much about traffic, although it is obviously still possible to catch someone during your lap, maybe a yellow flag, or catching someone recovering from an issue. But some people just like to kind of do it in the banzai phase, as I call it, those final few minutes of the session. I mean, everybody is still out there, so everyone is maximizing their track time as best they can. As again, that very bright livery of Jason, you'll certainly see him coming from a mile away. Look at that, though. It's half a tenth off of Scott Muscat. Bernard Vella and Mercheka are a third of a tenth between one another. Dean Vella a few tenths to find. He's almost like he's the one in a little bit of no man's land. He's 3/10 off the back of Macheka and about 1.4 ahead of Abaya, and then Abaya, Corral, and Rizzo still locked in that particular pack for 6th position. Colin Foster still struggling a little bit for pace at the moment. Still pace out there for them to find, though.
There is, and Jason Muscat crosses the line, so he's going to get 2 bites of the cherry here, so he's not just going to get the 1 chance as he now makes his way in towards Tarzan. Back onto the power we go, and that's going to be, traditionally turn 1 does seem to be an overtaking opportunity at most tracks you go to. Not here at Zandvoort though, you really do have to be side by side because it's a long right-hander. There's no real heavy braking zone. You're trail braking as well going in towards turn 1, so it's very, very difficult to get the move done then. Kirsten Abaya back into the pit lane. He might get a chance if it's a quick outlap to get back out there for another lap time, but 8 of the other drivers out on track as it stands, with Jason Muscat now back onto the power we go then through this next section, going in towards Masters, then towards turn 9 we will go, using plenty of curb on that left hand side, and he's gone purple through the first sector by 1/1000th of a second. Keep an eye on this lap time then. Through we go then in towards turn 10. Back onto the power we go then for Jason Muscat. He's got a little bit of traffic up ahead of him. Will it move to the side or will he have to deal with it as he makes his way now on towards Hans Ernst? This quick right then in towards the heavily banked left as Sheldon Scott Muscat now breaks into the 32s with a 32.929. Oh, as Jason Muscat has to try and find his way through. That's going to cost him a little bit of time. Now going through the penultimate corner at Kubo and on towards Ari Luyendijk corner through this heavily banked final corner on towards the start finish straight. This is going to try and get him close to Sheldon Scott Muscat. He's got one more chance at a bite of the cherry. He crosses the line there. Does he improve on his lap time? No, he doesn't. Final chance then for Jason Muscat. What a lap time from Sheldon Scott Muscat though. Only driver now into the 32s. He looks hungry for more time as well.
That he does. That whilst we were watching that lap, the pole time changed twice. Bernard Vella had a bite of the cherry, and then Scott Muscat just destroyed it by 3.5 tenths. Can Michael Macheka improve? It's an improvement, is it? Yes, I think it's an improvement on his own time, but not position. So yeah, it puts him closer to Jason Muscat's time. But my goodness me, Scott Muscat, he saved the best till last.
He did, didn't he? Well, Macheka was purple through the second sector, but lost a lot of time through sector 1, so he's going to have to go again. I think he's one of the last then who will be able to set a lap time in this qualifying session. At the moment, the checkered flag is out, and Sheldon Scott Muscat is back into the pit lane, made a mistake on his last lap, so will not be able to improve on that 32.9 as the number 4 of Bernard Vella comes across the line and can't improve, stays second fastest right now. We've still got Jason Muscat out there as well, nearly half a second off of the number 7 car. He's got a car off on Macheka's left-hand side. Couldn't tell which car that was, but since it's gone back into the pits, 4 cars remain out on track. We've got the number 10 of Jason Muscat. We've also got Michael Macheka, who are watching here. Then Gianluigi Correo in 8th place, and also we've got Colin Foster still out on track. Here's Macheka then making his way through purple through sector 2, but he was slower than his own personal best through sector 1. Let's see if he can try and link up these sector times. He's still going for it, so he still thinks there's a chance through the final couple of corners, really right in the curb on the inside of Kubo, then in towards Ari Luyendijk corner and back onto the start finish straight through that heavily banked final corner, onwards towards the start finish line. He clearly feels there's time to find as he crosses the line. Was there time to find then for Macheka? I don't think there was. He stays in 4th place, but Sheldon Scott Muscat starts the very first Malta National GT3 Championship at Zandvoort on pole position, and the only driver, Chris, into the 32s.
What a statement to make, and that pole time changed hands so many times. So I lost count how many times I thought, oh, well, there we go, that's now set, that's not going to be beaten, and bang! Suddenly Sheldon Scott Muscat just turns up and decides, no, you know what, you've had your fun. This is what I'm capable of. I mean, that's a huge statement of intent, but now he's got the pressure of being able to maintain that pace throughout the entire race. And it's all well and good being the one-lap specialist. You've got to be able to turn that into consistent race pace. And as we've said, this track punishes you hard for those little mistakes.
It really, really does. The track's so narrow, the walls are never too far away, and even then you've got the gravel traps to deal with as well. I mean, a circuit with gravel traps, Chris, it's rare to see nowadays, but it's a true circuit where if you're on the limit, you're fine. If you step slightly over the limit, you will be punished.
Yeah, gravel traps, they were a thing once. I mean, you were probably a little too young to remember. But yeah, there's difficult challenges for them out there. They haven't got those miles of runoff to be able to survive a mistake. And yes, of course, the concrete runoffs have their place and have their uses. But again, those old school gravel traps, the old school kind of ways of building circuits really do sort the men from the boys, to use the old adage. Excellent. So, well, why not? There's still enough room in there for a bit of personality and some smiles. Excellent, love it. That's something I really love seeing from these arena type events.
Really is, yeah. Just a little bit of a wave to the camera, and all is well. All is well. We shall see how they all get on then. So I believe they've got their warm up now, just to make sure they get the fine tweaks in. And warm up before a race, Chris, after your qualifying session, used to be a thing in the likes of Formula One. They since have done away with it and have gone straight to the race. But I'm just wondering what's going through a driver's mind going through the warm up session. They've had that qualifying session. Is this just a chance for them to iron out those possible mistakes in qualifying and see, right, I couldn't quite commit in qualifying, now's my chance to see, right, where can I buy more time?
Yeah, so some people will be maximizing their track time, and as we're looking at the arena now, you can see quite a number of drivers are out there, but there's a couple that aren't. So some people will prefer to just, okay, sit back, relax, I know I got the best out of it, or they're thinking their lap through in their mind and thinking, okay, let's just calm my nerves down. Some people prefer to just kind of sit the session out. Other people prefer to maximize their track time, maybe try slightly different tactics, putting the throttle on a little bit later or a little bit earlier, braking slightly different places, things like that. It's the last chance to be able to iron out those little kinks.
Last chance indeed to try and iron out those little bits of little creases in some of those lap times there. But I'm sure they'll take that opportunity with relish as well. So not far away from some racing action here at World Pro Racing for the first round of the Malta National GT3 Championship, fueled by Enemed. And of course, a big thank you to our sponsors in Gaming Malta, the Malta Motorsport Federation, 3CX and Vibe. And wherever you're watching us on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitch, on the Esports Television Network and Motorsport TV, and also TVM Sport. We'll be back after this.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Office without limits. Slash your telco costs. Boost agent productivity and customer service. Web conferencing for all. Never miss a call. .3CX, everywhere you go, on premise or in the cloud. 3cx.com.
ma saħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub.
Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqaf.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You're risking not only your life, but also my life.
Okay, we proceed to the start.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
Championship fueled by Enemed and of course brought to you by our sponsors in Gaming Malta, the Malta Motorsport Federation, 3CX and Vive. If you have missed anything, or you've missed a cracker of a qualifying session, then Sheldon Muscat topping the table by 3.5 tenths. He looks in great form out there. The drivers will have just finished up their warm-up and we can join them at trackside now where they're getting ready for the start of this race. So Sheldon Muscat then will be leading them on as we count up towards those red lights. It's 5 red lights. Here we go. What are the starts like? Good start from Sheldon Scott Muscat. He's going to have to cut off the number 4 there of Bernard Vella as they make their way now down in towards Zandvoort. They're going 3 wide. Somehow they all make it through, but that's going to be a great start by Bernard Vella then. He gets a really good launch, gets up the inside, and a little bit of a look from Jason Muscat then in number 10, almost ending that one in tears, but they all make it through the first couple of corners. It's Bernard Vella who started on that front row, getting a great start and now leading this race, but Sheldon Scott Muscat will not take that line down. The drivers now making their way through in towards turn 5, now into Robert Slotterbacker, and now on towards and descending towards Shivlak here through this long right-hander. We got someone off in the background. I think that was Mikhail Mercheka, who found himself all sorts of out of shape going through in towards that long right-hander there. We got that yellow flag in sector 1. It was Mercheka who was falling down the order there. So unfortunately had a decent qualifying session, but it's not worked for him this time around. We're seeing the top 3 then of Bernard Vella, then it's Sheldon Scott Muscat, then it's Jason Muscat in 3rd place as they apply the power out of turn 10. But these 3, well, that was a bit of a look from Jason Muscat going in through turn 1 there.
It was a bit of a scary moment, quite frankly. It was never going to end well had he have tried to force his way through the middle, going through Tarzan, but he wisely bowed out of that one. But Sheldon Scott Muscat is nailed to the back of Bernard Vella. That is going to be a wonderful battle. And of course, the more they fight, the more that allows Justin Muscat to really fight as well for that position. There we see Dean Vella along with Abijah at the back. Yeah, it was indeed Mercheka that made that mistake. Did we not say time and again that those tiny mistakes are going to be so costly at this time in the race? This track just being, it's that difficult. The mistakes, of course, are very easy to make. The field being this closely fought is going to be very difficult for Mercheka to make that back. In saying that, if these guys are going to be fighting as hard as we're seeing them at the moment, anything is certainly possible. What is Mercheki's 2.4 seconds behind Abaya at the moment? Here's a replay of that same incident. Here's the 11 car. Oh, wow, he got really unsettled. Oh my goodness.
And then there was more.
Oh my goodness. So the back 3 all had a sympathy spin with him.
Yeah, I think, well, Corral, Rizzo and Foster, I think it was tough to see there, but yeah, you're right, they all went off there as well. But D. Vella, well, he was the car that, well, I think he'll be very glad he hasn't got any front end damage at all there. I think he managed to get away with that scot-free, but what goes through your mind when Mercheka just comes across the front of you, out of control, and you somehow make it through? Life must flash before your eyes at that point.
Buy a lottery ticket. My goodness, your luck is in. That was unbelievably close.
Unbelievably close. And still running in there is the number 9 of Dean Vella then as he tries to latch onto the back of Jason Muscat in the number 10. There's Bernard Vella then who's leading the way, and of course on this second lap of the race will set the fastest lap of the race, a 1:34.0, and there's your new best lap time from Bernard Vella, then braking hard then in towards Tarzan and trying to now build a gap against Sheldon Scott Muscat. And obviously we've said this before, Chris, that on the line here over the next 8 weeks, over the next 10 weeks, over the next 8 rounds is that chance to represent Malta in the 2021 FIA Motorsport Games. There's so much riding here. This is only the first round, and look at the top 3. They're going to give it everything here.
What an amazing performance from Bernard Vella. He's not only managed to muscle his way up into the lead from that front row, he's given himself quite a lead. Look at that! he looks so relaxed. He looks absolutely chilled. I mean, what on earth must this? How do you stress a man like that? He's so relaxed. He may well be absolutely frantic, below the skin. Although, whilst I've been saying that he has lost 0.4 of a second to Sheldon Scott Muscat in number 7, not wanting to lose any time. Wow, he's really bearing down now. Suddenly, Bernard Velo, I suspect he's going to feel a little bit less relaxed. And again, that'll be one mistake. That's all it is. You can see that Jason Muscat behind hasn't gained time. That's been really good run through the lap from Sheldon, and also a mistake from Bernard Vella that's constituted that. Otherwise, Justin Muscat would be much closer. So, and there is our second place car, our pole sitter, having a glance up towards the top monitor there. And look at that, you saw Bernard as well, taking that defensive line very, very early on. That's not a surprise, seeing Sheldon Scott Muscat now with the fastest lap, considering how well he's just taken that lap, and he's really piling on the pressure now for the lead.
I think this car might take a couple of laps to warm up here for Sheldon Scott Muscat. The chance to get those tyres warmed up, because now he's throwing it around with confidence. Fastest lap of the race set now by Sheldon Scott Muscat. 34.0 is your new fastest lap of the race. And they're both now, Vella and Sheldon Scott Muscat, getting away from that number 10 of Jason Muscat, just trying to basically try and run away with this. There's the gap between them at the moment, just over half a second, the gap between the two leaders here. And obviously, we've got 8 rounds in this championship, with the final round being an hour-long race to finish off this season here. But look at this now. Sheldon Scott Muscat right onto the back here. Will he have a look up the inside in towards turn 10? No, he won't. And probably a wise move at that one. He's probably going to try and size it up down the start-finish straight. He might even go sooner, because they're looking to go side by side now as they make their way over the crest and on towards Hans Ernst Bocht. Now Bernard Vella will have the inside line going through and takes away that inside line from Sheldon Scott Muscat. Different lines being found here by Muscat as he tries to apply the pressure to Vella up ahead as they now make their way in towards the penultimate corner at Kumo. We've got yellow flags in sector 1. Back onto the power we go. We've got a penalty for Andrea Rizzo. We'll be onto that very, very shortly, because here comes Sheldon Scott Muscat. He'll have the slipstream then of Bernard Vella, as Bernard Vella looks to try and defend the inside line, then takes the racing line back. So just trying to break the toe down in towards Tarzan we go. And you can see the two different lines being taken there. As you saw there, that number 4 car, Bernard Vella, much more willing to take a little bit more speed through and then try and apply the power a little bit earlier. But Sheldon Scott Muscat getting a more composed car in there, a much narrower and much tighter line through.
Yeah, completely. As we have an equally hot battle here for 7th position between Gianluigi Corral and Andrea Rizzo. So they are fighting pretty much tooth and nail. Andrea Rizzo looks so relaxed in that position, but he's the chaser at the moment. He's got the control over how his actions pan out. But yeah, it looks like Bernard Velo has got the pace in sector 1, and then Sheldon Scott Muscat seems to pull it back in the second and third sectors. That seems to be the way that the lead battle is going, and I'm also keeping an eye on Jason Muscat's delta. That's coming down again. So, and there is the lead battle, as we were mentioning here. The Corral-Rizzo battle is, at the moment, fairly stable in Corral's favour. But I have a feeling that we're going to see these top 4 really condensed. Oh, wow, and look at Corral. He had a really good run through the right-hander, and he's given himself a couple of tenths there over Andrea Rizzo. And there is Gianluigi there. Again, that's a face full of focus as he's manoeuvring his car around through the sector. As we jump back up to Bernard Vella coming over the line. Now, he hasn't gone for that defensive line this time. We saw him commit to it really, really early on. And in fairness, the only way you're going to make that move into turn 1 in these GT3s is if you are side by side pretty much all the way down the start-finish straight. But they can't ignore that green number 10, Jason Muscat, in 3rd position. Oh, wow, that was a very tight line for Scott Muscat there. And also Kirsten Ibaya is in a great fight with Macheco. We saw make that amazing. How on earth he didn't hit anything, I will never know. But yeah, Ibaya has got very, very hot property, trying to really pressure his way past for that 5th spot there.
Rizzo currently in the pit lane, so that looks like it's going to be a drive-through penalty for Rizzo there. He now makes his way out. Yeah, 16.4 seconds, didn't stop, so a drive-through penalty for Rizzo there. No doubt in the maybe the early melee there. We yet to get confirmation about what that penalty was for, whether it was decided by our stewarding team in Adrian Figallo and George Muscat, or whether it was given by the sim itself. Bernard Vella now has to look at his mirrors here, because Sheldon Scott Muscat's closing in once again down towards Hans Hurst, and not this time from Sheldon Scott Muscat. Maybe filling the mirrors on this occasion of Bernard Vella.
No.
There is a rear wingless. I think that was Colin Foster, who's found himself in the wars there, and will now try and make his way back to the pit lane. If he gets to the finish line, he will get some points on the board at the very least, but it's not been a great day for Colin Foster at all. Bernard Vella now will be once again looking behind him, seeing where Sheldon Scott Muscat is going to go. Again, he sticks to the racing line this time around. He seems to be a bit more comfortable than he was a couple of laps ago. Now, down in towards Tarzan we go. You can see the two different lines here being taken. Vella running slightly deeper into one, but Sheldon Scott Muscat picking up the apex a lot earlier. There's Mercheka battling away with Kirsten Abaya. Abaya has got the move done then and gets ahead. But look, we're going side by side now through the next couple of corners. In through we go, and Mercheka has to back out of that one. No room for two cars going in through Gerlach and then in towards Hugenholtz there, and had to back out of it. So Mercheka now down to 5th place was that, or 6th place that was. But yeah, nice battle between the two of them. Nice battle here as well for the battle for the lead, as once again Sheldon Scott Muscat, who put this car on pole position by 3.5 tenths of a second, finds himself now 3.5 tenths of a second back from Bernard Vella as we make our way in towards turn 10. Let's see what the lines are here. Again, it seems like Sheldon Scott Muscat wants to take a tighter line into some of these corners and see if he can get onto the power earlier. But Bernard Vella is just focusing here on making sure that he keeps that car ahead. You don't want to get lulled into this defensive display early on, because you'll cost yourself time in the long run as they now make their way onward through Hans Hurst. And now back onto the power we go. A penalty then for Andrea Rizzo. Is that another penalty for Rizzo there? Yeah, it's a second penalty.
Oh dear, oh dear. He's clearly earning the ire of the stewards. Here we go again. Bernard Vella. He's going to be very much under pressure this time around. And there you can see he's had to go for that defensive line very early. He doesn't want to allow Sheldon Scott Muscat the run on that inside line. He was certainly close enough to do it, and quite wisely Bernard Vella has defended the inside line, and that's allowing, there he is, Jason Muscat's closing in and in and in, and also Dean Vella. Oh, Sheldon Muscat, very well caught. Now, he wouldn't have really lost any time because of where that incident happened, because there was so little distance to the next corner. If he'd done that along this straight, then he'd have lost a huge amount of time. But very well caught for Sheldon Muscat. It just goes to show he's pushing hard.
That rear end.
Yeah,
rear end's looking a little sketchy at the moment.
It didn't adjust. He got very, very loose. And that, look at what that's cost him. That's a good half a second at least. That has cost him, that one mistake alone. Because, again, Bernard Vella is just doing exactly what he needs to do. But what I was going on to say was that Sheldon Scott Muscat, whilst he was 3/10 quicker in qualifying, he's pushing so hard to just maintain where he is. He's not being held up by the tune of 3/10 of a second. We've all seen it. We've seen the faster driver unable to get past where they're drastically quicker. Now, Sheldon Scott Muscat may have a little bit in his pocket, but Dean Vella, he's just doing, Bernard Vella is doing a brilliant job of keeping him there by just positioning of car. And it could be that Sheldon Scott Muscat is getting a little frustrated, staring at the tail end of Bernard Vella's car as Colin Foster now adds his name to the penalty board.
Yep, so Colin Foster now onto the penalty board, and we'll have to serve that later on in this race. For now, though, there is Dean Vella, who's trying to close in and making his way now in towards Tarzan. He's 2.8 seconds off of the leader. He's really joining onto this battle. So too is Jason Muscat. They started to fall away at the beginning of this race. Now they're starting to close in once again as they all now make their way in towards Hugenholtz, then back onto the power through Hunzerug, and then on towards this turn 4 and turn 5 section. And it's a it's a section that really tests the car and tests the aerodynamics of the cars. They now make their way through Slotterbecker and now on towards Schieblich here, back through this long right-hander that's downhill on entry, so it really can unsettle the car on the rear end if you're not careful, and if you do carry a little bit too much speed through Masters. They go in towards turn 9 now. Jason Muscat here just seeing what he can do, seeing if he can try and find a way through a little bit deep into turn 9 there. Will be a little bit too late to the apex, now in towards turn 10. And now back onto the power we go. But at the moment then, it is still Bernard Vella who's leading this race. Sheldon Scott Muscat in second place. It's Jason Muscat in third place. Then it is Dean Vella in fourth, Mikhail Mercheka in fifth place, Kirsten Abea in sixth, Gianluigi Corral in seventh place with Andrea Rizzo in eighth, and Colin Foster running around in ninth place at the moment. He did come into the pit lane. It was about a 2.5 minute pit stop that he had to repair that rear wing. He's 2 laps down at the moment, but Kirsten Abea now has a penalty added to his name, and he will have to serve that now. Currently sixth place and trying to once again close in on Mercheka. And here comes our leaders then. We're just over half the race to go now. It is still Bernard Vella leading the way. Sheldon Scott Muscat just hanging in there by just under a second.
Look at the pressure that Dean Vella is now in a position to apply to Jason Muscat. I've got to get the right Vella and the right Muscat in the right order. But yeah, Bernard Vella has done exactly what he needs to do, capitalising on that mistake from Sheldon Scott Muscat to give him now a second's worth of penalty. Oh, Colin Foster's got himself on the penalty board again. But look at this, Jason Muscat does not have that luxury. He's got, 7/10 of a second at the moment between himself and Dean Vella behind. And as we were observing, or as I was observing from when we had his camera running, he really is feeling it. I think there was a certain amount of perspiration going on. That may well be an air-conditioned room, but he is really feeling the heat. And you just see that in his level of concentration. And again, in fairness, they're doing so amazingly well and maintaining this pace, still with all that pressure that we talked about earlier, not just from the cameras and from the kind of feel of the event, but equally from the fact that Jason Muscat got Dean Vella chasing him down, and now the gap between Bernard Vella and Sheldon Scott Muscat has come down a bit. So that lead battle is not resolved at all.
Yeah, it's almost like the illusion of time. When you're in a battle for the lead, then the leader will find themselves that time goes very, very slowly, and anyone battling for the lead will find that time goes really ridiculously quickly. So there's a sense of illusion of time. But at the moment, it is, of course, that Bernard Vella leading the way from Sheldon Scott Muscat. There's Jason Muscat in third place. He'll have to be looking in his mirrors at some point, because that is Dean Vella right behind as they now make their way all the way in towards Tarzan. Line of stern at the moment for the top four. But I think Sheldon Scott Muscat is struggling with that rear end, whether it's tyre temperatures or not, because of course these are fixed setups on these cars. So driving style is going to play a huge part and a huge way in how these cars and these drivers perform. And maybe Sheldon Scott Muscat maybe pushing the rear tyres a little bit too much.
Perhaps. And Sheldon Scott Muscat, yet again, he's so fast out of Hugenholtz. That seems to be where he's gaining a huge amount of time, comparatively speaking, over Bernard Vella. And somehow in that last sector and leading up to the end of sector 1 is where Bernard Vella seems to just have enough in the tank. But look at this, as this was the second, 1.1 seconds, only a lap ago. Oh my goodness me, that was a little desperate from Sheldon Scott Muscat. I can't imagine that he would have felt the door was left open, because Bernard Vella was rather minding his own business. That would have been frowned upon, I think, if he tried to commit to that. But you could see how much he was fighting the car to get the thing slowed down again and get it to behave itself. But all that's really done is brought the two behind them. They're still just about two pairs of fights, but this is going to become a 4-car conga line very, very soon if the lead two keep doing this.
On to the start finish straight we go then, and Sheldon Scott Muscat has made it clear. He's made his intentions clear to Bernard Vella. He wants that position as they now make their way towards Tarzan once again. Line of stern at the moment, but Sheldon Scott Muscat once again taking that slightly different line, getting back onto the power earlier out of Tarzan, now in towards Gerlach, and then slowing the car down towards Hugenholtz. And Bernard Vella, taking an inside line, runs slightly deep there, just emerging straight into the picture there. The camera wasn't on him. He decided he wanted to jump back in it, did Sheldon Scott Muscat. Now coming all the way through turns 4 and then through turn 5. Through then we go into towards Robert Slotterbacker. Now downhill in towards Shivlak. Then as we make our way once again all the way through. That rear end seems to be behaving itself now for Sheldon Scott Muscat. Before the commentator cursed there. But through Masters we go, and then in towards the turn 9 section, turn 9 coming up, and this is where the left-hand side tyres will be really heating up, because they've had to just go through lots of high-speed corners there, lots of adhesion on that left-hand side of the car. They do get a break in that right-hander of turn 10, and then the slight straight towards Hans Ernst, but these left-hand side tyres will take a beating here.
Absolutely it will. So it's around about 7/10 from first to second, then a second or so from second to third, and then only 6/10 third to fourth. What a fantastic race. We did say that the pace, particularly in our top half of the field, was so close. I really feel for Macheka as well, because I'm looking at his delta and he's not changing a lot. So he would have kept pace with these top four had he have not had that big spin early on in the race. But here we go again, over the line. Bernard Vella still maintaining the lead over Sheldon Scott Muscat. Jason Muscat not far behind, keeping the advances of Dean Vella at bay. There they are, the beautiful McLaren 720 GT3s are in full view. That's a bit of a slide from Bernard Vella, but he'll get away with that. But that has put him off a little bit coming through Hugenholz. And this is where Scott Muscat has been pretty strong. Couldn't quite capitalize on it, though. He maybe was put off by the slide of Bernard Vella there. We've seen how well the number 7 car can close in on it almost looks golden, doesn't he, in the sunshine, that beautiful yellow paint scheme. But look at this, look how close he's getting now. That's less than half a second between the top two as Sheldon Scott Muscat bounces off the airbase a little bit. Whoa, now that's going to really compromise his line. In comes Jason Muscat now. He's dragging Dean Vella within 10 minutes after the race. And suddenly the dynamic has changed. Dean Vella could well be in there. Whoa, big slide from our second place. Is this going to be a change for second position? Jason Muscat has got a decent run now, goes to the outside line, heading down towards Hans Holt. Is he going to make the move? No, he opts to stay where he is. But Dean Vella now really in this mixture. And now is a perfect opportunity for Bernard Vella to dance off into the sunset, because the whole dynamic in the blink of an eye is now completely changed.
From attack to defence now for Sheldon Scott Muscat. He's got Jason Muscat all in his mirrors now. That lime green car is going nowhere. Now in towards the slipstream. They will go on the exit of Ari Luyendijk corner on towards the start-finish straight. Now Sheldon Scott Muscat might have to be looking in his mirrors. Look at Dean Vella as well, who wants to try and take an opportunity here. He might be slightly too far back for a move in towards Tarzan, and he was in towards the first corner. That long right-hander there. But look, he's now all over the back of Jason Muscat ahead of him. Place your bets here for second place. Grab that popcorn if you haven't already, because this battle is going to be absolutely brilliant. The thing about it now is that Sheldon Scott Muscat has to calm himself down. He's 1.7 seconds down. If he focuses too much on defending, which Jason Muscat is probably going to force his hand to do, he will lose ground with Bernard Vella. And all that pressure he's put on, all that fast lap times, all that fast pace he had is going to dissipate very quickly.
And we've barely seen any significant mistake from our leader, from Bernard Vella, all race long. So it seems unlikely he's going to do one now as Jason Muscat hits that apex a little bit hard, sends this car sliding towards the outside, does manage to control it quite nicely, though. If Sheldon Scott Muscat is able just to recover his, exactly as you were saying, just recover his nerves, and that's where he's made the mistake again. Is he losing tyres, I wonder? Because it's exactly the same place where he's made the mistake. He hasn't made it as dramatically as he did last time. These two might share a surname. I doubt there's any team orders going on between these two. I have no doubt that Jason Muscat is going to attack Sheldon should he get the opportunity to. But it looks like Sheldon may be just overdriving the car. He may well not have the adhesion in the tyres that he once enjoyed. It could be why he keeps making that mistake coming out of Hans Ernst. Obviously, they know better than we do. But it looks like he's feeling the pressure a little bit.
He is. He's feeling that pressure. He doesn't look like he's feeling that pressure, but I'm sure he is feeling that pressure right now. In towards Tarzan we go. Just over 7.5 minutes left of this racing action here for the first round. And as you can see, it's all getting pretty nervy at the moment in that top four. Well, maybe not so much for Bernard Vella. Leading a race is obviously a nerve-wracking job, but when you're being chased down by Sheldon Scott Muscat, it's going to be a little bit more nervy. As there you can see Jason Muscat in the number 10 car, that lime green McLaren, making their way, piling their way now through in towards turns 4 and 5 through Robert Slottermacher, now downhill towards Shivlik here, and that gap has stabilised. It was coming down in that first sector, but I mean, at the moment, it just looks like, because there's no difference in setup. These are fixed setups, so everyone's running the exact same car that you can do in sim racing. And Sheldon Scott Muscat now closing in once again towards the end of Sector 2, down to 1.2 seconds at one point here. There is Kirsten Abaya, who was in the pit lane for a drive-through, gets back onto the power now. 7th place at the moment as he now makes his way out of the pit lane, back onto the track then out of turn 1. But you know, he's got that 7th place. It's good points for him. He may not have had the best race to start with, but it's a long, long championship.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very easy to become despondent if the performance doesn't go quite your way. But like you say, there's plenty of rounds, plenty of points still on the table. This is the opening round of the season, so there's still time to do something about that. Jason Muscat still under pressure from Dean Vella, but Dean's a little bit too far back, and now Sheldon's got Muscat. Wow, as he found his pace. He's given himself 1.2 seconds to Jason Muscat. Almost equidistant between second and third now, so he's not giving up on that top spot. Bernard Vella may well be enjoying the break in the pressure, so to speak, but you can quite clearly see that number 7 car has not given up on it. He just needs to not overdrive. He's certainly got the pace to do it, to get back under the rear wing of Bernard Vella, but has he got time? That's going to be the golden question. Here's the fight for the final podium spot. Jason Muscat has held on to it all race long, but Dean Vella is really ready to pounce should a mistake happen, and that's a little bit too much apex being taken there from Jason Muscat. That's going to cost him some momentum. Not enough, though, for Dean Vella to be able to capitalise on it, but that, of course, has put Dean Vella really in the tyre tracks of the green number 10. Can Dean Vella, he's certainly got the ability, he's got the pace, we've seen it in plenty of other times. Can he muscle his way onto the podium?
And he muscle his way through with 5 minutes on the clock. So we're looking at really 3 laps to go here. Maybe, yeah, 3 laps is probably going to be around about that. Possibly 4 laps. It just depends on the pace of the race leader in Bernard Vella as they now descend their way through in towards Hans Ernst. Back onto the power they go. And of course, Dean Vella wants this podium position ahead of Jason Muscat. Making our way now through Kubo and then back onto the power we go. Then using that curb on the left-hand side. Nice exit actually from Dean Vella as they now make their way through Ari Luyendijk corner. Back onto the start finish straight through that banking to carry a little bit more speed, and I just don't think he's close enough then. He's got the slipstream, he's got the toe, but he's got nowhere to put that overspeed in towards Tarzan. They go, and once again he has to stay behind. Going into the last 4 minutes of this race then, you sort of have to guard against desperate moves because you want to try and get past the car in front. You know there's not many laps to do it in, but you can't afford to force a move that wasn't on.
No, absolutely. You don't want to throw away all the good work that's led you to this point. But equally, you don't want to lose any slight opportunity that may well present itself. Because of how close the top 4 are, they're going to have to be creative on how they get through. So I don't envy them right now, but equally, I don't, as much as Bernard Vella has led pretty much all race long, that lead is it's pretty much under a second now. There's a back marker there. Is that a Byer? No, it's Foster. Oh, so Colin Foster did absolutely perfectly done, staying very much out of the way, well off the racing line. But look at the gap now. It's 0.6 of a second. Here we go again. Sheldon's got Muscat's back in the fight for the lead.
Seconds out. What round are we on between those two at the moment? Vella seems to have come out. Vella seems to have been on top of them for most of the rounds here. In fact, all of them, because he's still leading this race. 0.7 of a second separate them as we make our way through Kubo and on towards Ari Luyendijk corner. Back onto the start finish straight through that heavy banking. Just to carry all the speed through there. Not many cars don't have to go flat out through there. I think the McLarens, it's safe to say, will and can. Sheldon Scott Muscat then closing in, is he? Down the start finish straight? Well, he should be in the slipstream in these fixed setups. He should be closing in, going in towards Tarzan. Back onto the power we go. Less than 3 minutes to go here. We might be able to squeeze 2 laps out of this race timer. We'll have to come back to that one in towards the 4th corner of the track. Back onto the power we go in towards Hugenholtz and then back through Hunsrug. And there you can see Sheldon Scott Muscat. Well, you wouldn't be able to tell that he wants that position. You wouldn't be able to tell at all. He's got nerves of steel, as Muscat, but now back down in through Shivlak, through Masters they will go at eventually with 2 minutes 15 on the clock. So Vella right now leading this race, and he has done since the very first lap. Sheldon Scott Muscat grabbed pole position, but a not so good start meant that he fell back, and almost the 3 of them, this battle may not have been happening at all if Jason Muscat hadn't have backed out of turn 1, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. And here we go again. It's that section from Hugenholtz right the way through to turn 10 where Sheldon Scott Muscat has gained the most of his time, and he's done it again. He's having a look. He's wisely backed out of that. In these cars, I could never see that coming off. He wants to be able to make it into Tarzan. Oh my goodness, he almost threw the whole thing away right there, but he managed just How the hell he caught that, I don't know. He's probably asking himself the same question. Through Kumo, through Ari Leindijk. How is this going to play out now? He's too far back to make it. We are going to be starting the final lap. The checker flag is going to be readied this time around. And that one mistake could have cost Sheldon Scott Muscat his best opportunity to banzai that one on the inside of Tarzan. Riding on board with the number 7 now. Another penalty for Colin Foster. He's going for the whole set now. Into Gerlach now, into Hugenholtz. This is where the yellow car of Vela has been stronger than the number 7, but now this is the prime opportunity Sheldon Scott Muscat has got. He's been stronger in this section all race long than his prey. Can he apply it when it really counts? Has he got any tyres left? Is he down to the rims? Well, I mean, the way that the car's misbehaving might indicate he's got little traction left. Oh, almost clouts the apex. He's pushing so hard, he's leaving nothing to chance.
Oh, but he's run slightly deep then in towards turn 10. Oh, sorry, turn 9. That might cost him again. Bernard Vella managing to keep it together. A narrow line being taken by Sheldon Scott Muscat in towards turn 10. Back onto the power they go then, and Bernard Vella making his way over the crest and onwards towards Hans Ernst. Back down the gears then. You wouldn't know he's on the final lap of a race he's led all the way through. Now in towards this long left hand of the track, dipping away from you. Back onto the power for the final time. Out of the third to last corner. In towards Kumo we go. The timer has expired and the drivers are making their way through the penultimate corner, through Ari Leindijk, and back onto the throttle once again through that long banking on towards the start-finish straight. Bernard Vella can't quite believe it. He's managing to win this race and take the checkered flag. What a drive from Bernard Vella. He managed to hang on to the lead. Whatever Sheldon Scott Muscat threw at him, he had an answer for. Sheldon Scott Muscat finishing in second place. He lost that lead of the race from pole position going in towards turn 1. Bernard Vella then, what a drive from him. He wins the first round here. Round 1 goes to him in the Malta National GT3 Championship.
Does he realise he's finished? He's still pushing on by the look of it, but you saw the relief in his face as he came through Harry Leindijk for the last time. He's still pressing on. He doesn't want this race to end. Well, frankly, neither do we.
We don't.
Yeah, I think Sheldon Scott Muscat's had enough. Obviously, we lost his car, but I mean, take your tour of victory, Mr. Vella. You have earned it. What a drive from all of our drivers. Obviously, not everybody coming off as well as the top 4. But everybody has done their best. You've got to feel for Macheka as well. I think he really would have been in this mixture had he not had that massive spin early on. We didn't really see a lot of Carrao and Abaya. That battle for a while was looking pretty good. And Rizzo and Foster, sadly, with those drive-through penalties, put them a little bit out of the picture. But what a way to start this season.
What a way indeed. And Bernard Vella then really taking it to it, winning the first round here at Zandvoort, and momentum will really be on his side. And I think maybe for Sheldon Scott Muscat, a missed opportunity. He grabbed pole position by 3.5 tenths in this race, and it just showed you that a qualifying position here, overtaking, can be very, very difficult, as Vella now, our race winner, comes into the pit lane there. Well, penny for his thoughts, I wonder. It was a commanding drive. He managed to have an answer for everything Sheldon Scott Muscat managed to throw at him. Jason Muscat rounding off the top 3 with Dean Vella in 4th place. Dean Vella not being able to make that move stick. And we were talking about that before, how overtaking at this track is difficult. And I think Sheldon Scott Muscat then proved that. He just could not find a way through. A great drive from Bernard Vella.
Wasn't it just? And just that one mistake at the most crucial time for Sheldon Scott Muscat, I think, denied him the opportunity. He had the pace, he had the prime opportunity in that final lap to wrestle the lead from Bernard Vella, but that one mistake just cost him at the real crucial time. Of course, no race is ever really lost in one mistake unless you've hit the ball. But what an incredible performance as well. From both Muscats and both fellas, actually, quite frankly. They had brilliant races, and we've been given a treat in their performances. And if that's anything to go by, this season will be magnificent.
More of the same, please. 7 more of those great battles all the way through. Fantastic stuff. As you said, let's talk a little bit more about Michael Macheka, who was sideways going through. I think it was Slotterbecker. He's sideways all the way through. Dean Vella somehow managed to avoid him. That happened half an hour ago. It just seems like we've had so much happen in this race, but a sigh of relief from Dean Vella in that moment. But yeah, a race that could have been for Macheka.
Oh, absolutely. He certainly showed the pace. Looking at his deltas, that he would have absolutely been in that lead battle. So I do feel a bit sorry for Macheka, but he was. We didn't really see an impact that led to his spin, and that sadly then put the three behind him off a little bit. But that's the nature of the beast. But how on earth? I would imagine Dean Vella was probably still gripping the wheel that little bit harder following that incident right the way up to the checkered flags. It was pixels away from an absolute disaster. But yeah, great performance across the board. And if Macheka can just iron out those early mistakes, he'll be very much in the fight as the season continues.
Very much so. And speaking of the next race, it will be at Mills Metropark, which is a classic R-Factor track. It was in the very first R-Factor game as well as this one. And obviously a little bit of resurfacing, a little bit of tweaks and whatnot since I raced it in R-Factor. It's come a long way since, but it's a flowing circuit. More high-speed corners all the way through, which doesn't bode well for overtaking. Again, it's going to be one of those there. Qualifying is going to be high on the agenda, and as we've already seen, Sheldon Scott Muscat, yes, he can get the qualifying lap time in, but where he lost out into turn one, that summed up the race for him. It was a missed opportunity, I feel.
Absolutely, it was, and he certainly looked like he had the pace advantage over Bernard Vella all race long, but just those little mistakes, and in fairness, great defensive driving from Bernard Vella, just positioning his car exactly when he needed to do. He didn't defend fresh air, didn't panic as well. And again, I've not seen Bernard Vella. I've seen Dean Vella many, many a time, so I know the quality of that racing stable. But Bernard has very much proved he can hold his own against the best. But I mean, it really came down to the start for Bernard. I would imagine he may very well be very well practiced at this particular circuit, and knowing that he had that awesome start, wrestled his way into the lead, and did exactly what he needed to do. And that's the sign of a very, very good, very professional driver. Doesn't panic, doesn't make those silly mistakes. Not saying that the likes of further down the field are less experienced, but those mistakes, as we've said constantly, are very, very costly. And we just didn't see that from Bernard Vella. As a wonderful performance.
Absolutely, and sometimes you just need that. You need to put on a defensive display. You need to, as you said, make sure you don't defend clean air, that you're not losing time for no reason. But also, we didn't really see many mistakes. We saw maybe a twitch of a back end, but that was pretty standard throughout the entire field, especially going through Shivlak there. But again, as you said, pretty much a faultless drive from Bernard Vella, and it lets him take the first race win of the Malta National GT3 Championship. And well, you saw him there, relief, and I don't think he could quite believe it coming towards the line that he pulled it off. But you can't take that away from him. A race victory here on a grand stage. Absolutely, take the plaudits. He's earned them,
hasn't he? Just whilst you could say he may. I was about to say you could accuse him of being gifted the lead, but I don't reckon so.
No.
Yeah, sure, it wasn't a brilliant start from Sheldon Scott Muscat, but it wasn't disastrous by any stretch. It was just a cracking start from Bernard and held the race well. Races are only ever lost in the first lap, and with the amount of opportunities that Sheldon Scott Muscat had and all the pressure that he put on for so long, and Bernard just soaked it up. I mean, if he's not believing in his abilities before, he certainly should now.
Yeah, absolutely. And using the track's narrow nature to its advantage as well. It's tough to overtake here already, but you add the fact that you had a good defensive drive from Bernard Vella. That adds up to a great result for him. I want to touch on Colin Foster because he was a driver that has clearly got the pace. He's made it this far. He's made it into this top 10 shootout, but everything that could have gone wrong for him really did.
Sadly so. We saw him backwards into the wall, missing a rear wing, and that sort of thing just inevitably snowballs. You're at the back of the field. You've had to let the leaders through. It does dent the old mind game. Again, the mental game is just as important as the actual lines you're taking and the pace you have. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a bit of a dent of confidence there from Colin Foster. But like you say, he's already proven himself to be a very competent, very quick driver to have gotten this far. Hopefully he'll be able to pick himself up, dust himself off, and do it all again for round two.
and do it all again on Friday. That's, of course, coming up in less than a week's time. We get to go racing again at Mills Metro Park. So hopefully it's one of those where you just get the first one out of the way, and hopefully we get to see him on the pace once again, because he's clearly got the pace to get it this far. Just one of those days where nothing seemed to work for him. And of course as well, drivers will have favourite tracks, they'll have not so favourite tracks, and they'll probably go home now and sort of put the hours into Mills Metro Park now. They'll put countless hours into the season opener at Zandvoort just to make sure they get and unlock as much pace as possible, minimise the mistakes as much as possible as well. And we come to a track next time around which is got lots of flowing corners once again. Again, a fixed setup, so there's nothing you can do to tyre pressures, and there's nothing you can do to the aero of the car or the camber to try and reduce the tyre temperatures. That's all got to be done by the driving style, and if you've not got a driving style that suits the car, it will not work.
No, it makes the battle that much harder, and that could be something that Colin Foster or indeed Andre Rizzo, who was really struggling as well. We saw a few penalties in his name, Abaya as well. It could be just, they're struggling to, just adapt their driving style to the car. Now, generally, drivers will want to adapt the car to them. And in these fixed setup races, which I personally am a big fan of, because I haven't a clue on how to tune the cars. So that's why I like them. But it does force the drivers to have to adapt to the car. And there are times when no matter what you do, you just cannot get a little bit dependent on the track as well. So it really is, it does make the battle harder, certainly, but we do hope that they sort of put a bit more time in. I'm not meaning that in a disingenuous sense, but it just means that they've got more, there's more emphasis on them to have to put more practice in to be able to overcome those hurdles.
Definitely, and whatever comes your way, you've got to make sure you have the capability to take a hold of it by the scruff of its neck and see what you can do with it. Sometimes a championship won't be decided by how dominant you are. It will be what you've done in a situation where it's not quite gone your way. And I think Sheldon Muscat here, we know he's a talented driver. We know how well he can do here at World Pro Racing. He's got the pace to be near and at the top. But just today, the start pretty much summed up the race there, and he just could not find a way past. And that's the nature of the beast of Zandvoort. If you don't get the good start, it's a narrow track, and it just seemed like all that effort he put into qualifying 3.5 tenths of anybody else, really, that it just seemed to fall back on himself there.
Such is the nature of motor racing, and whether it be the real world or the sim world is broadly the same in the sense of, you can be the fastest man out there over one lap, but you still need that consistency in performance and luck. Quite frankly, that's always going to be an element of motor racing. And hopefully, Sheldon Scott Muscat can take solace from the fact that he really was the fastest man out there. I'm fairly sure he took the fastest lap of the race. Certainly the fastest qualifying time, as you say, Kieran, by a considerable margin. We're not talking a few hundreds. It was 0.3 of a second, which, okay, is, if you think of it in real life terms, isn't very much. But in racing terms, that's a big margin. So hopefully he'll be able to take solace from that, and we'll see an improved Muscat next time around.
First of 8 steps completed then at Zandvoort, and at the moment it is advantage to Bernard Vella. Let's head down then to the World Pro Racing Simulation Centre. Let's hand over to Davidia and Simon for an interview with the top 3.
We've just ended the first round of races of the National Championships. Here with us is Jason Muscat. How are you feeling throughout this race of the first round?
It was very close and very hard fought. The top 5, I believe we were all within the same half a second, so it was tough. Most important was not to make any mistakes, because on this track it's quite hard to overtake. And yeah, I'm very happy with P3. It's the first race, so most important was to finish in a good position.
Great. And how was your battle during the race?
The most tense moment, I think, was turn 1. I think I touched the first 2 guys a bit. I'm sorry for that, but after that, it was just trying to keep up and hope for them to make a mistake. As I said, it was nearly impossible to overtake.
And are you looking forward towards the next round of races? And what is your favorite track which you would like to race in?
My favorite track would be Spa-Francorchamps. I'm looking forward also for the next rounds. It's gonna be even more difficult because they're tracks that we don't usually race on. But we'll see.
Good luck and thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done.
His favourite track was Spa-Francorchamps there. I've just realised I muted myself. Favourite track, Spa-Francorchamps, and not on the calendar. That seems a bit harsh.
Well, the nature of the beast, unfortunately. I think that the question was supposed to be, what is your favourite track in this season? But Spa's a great circuit. Not taking that away. And these cars are magnificent at Spa. Yeah, so... But again, a very modest answer there. He was shame for the contact early on. And contact in the first opening laps is to be expected. He certainly didn't cause any major issues for anybody that we saw. But yeah, a very down-to-earth answer, and hopefully, like we say, he's able to pick himself up and maybe get further up the podium next time.
Yeah, and he was saying he mentioned that little bit of contact at the first corner or the first lap. It almost ended in tears for that top three at that point. But he managed to back out of it, did apologise for it. Whether contact was made, he might have made contact to his left-hand side, which at that point I think would have been Sheldon Muscat, possibly. Trying to remember what that far back. It was about 45 minutes ago. Short-term memory as a commentator, not a great combination. But I have to say, you know, he said himself, it's very difficult to overtake out there, and it was all about trying to apply the pressure to the driver ahead, and this time it just didn't work.
No, but he'll be able to take the lessons he's learned, and now he'll get an idea, like all the drivers are, they'll get an idea of where they are in the pecking order, where they're a bit stronger against somebody else, a bit weaker against others. So hopefully we'll see some stronger performances next time.
Well, let's head back to the simulation centre with Sheldon Scott Muscat. He's with Simon. A couple of technical issues there, but hopefully we'll hear from Sheldon Scott Muscat in the near future. But I have to say, it was a tough race for him. I'm interested to see what he's got to say about that race.
Yeah, absolutely. I was hoping that we'd be able to hear from him. Hopefully we will shortly. But yeah, I would imagine he'll have a few words to say, hopefully not in a negative sense. But as we said before, his performance, his pace was just incredible. It was just those little moments, those little inconsistencies, those little mistakes that just undid his incredible effort. But we saw his determination as well. So, when he did make those mistakes, it would be very easy for him to give up, just chuck in the towels. Oh well, I haven't got past him. I'm not going to bother. But we saw him. At one point, the gap was back up to about 1.2 seconds. He was being really hustled by his fellow Muscat, but then he just got back into his stride, back into his rhythm, head in the right place, and then was challenging for the lead again.
Yeah, and it just shows you that mentality. Yes, the start didn't go to plan, but he was applying the pressure time and time again, maybe slightly overdriving the car in certain scenarios. So that back end was just trying to stay in check going through, especially through Shivlak. It just looked like he tried to hang on in some of those corners. But yeah, definitely tried to throw everything and the kitchen sink at it, just not this time.
No, indeed. But again, it just shows that he was able to get his head back in the right place, which is not to be understated. That is very difficult to do when you're under that much pressure. And again, we've talked about the prizes on offer. This is a big stage. This is a massive opportunity for these sim racers to be able to represent their country, should they get the top prize, of course. So we're not just talking about a few euros. We're not talking about a new piece of equipment. we're talking about a huge prize, and that in itself is going to add pressure. The arena they're in is going to add pressure. There's cameras pointing at them. There's us lunatics shouting about their on-track antics. There's a lot going on, and he's still putting in performances like that. Few things to iron out, yes, but there's plenty more to see from Sheldon. I have no doubt at all.
Plenty as well. As you know, if we've watched World Pro Racing before, whether it's on YouTube, on Twitch, on Facebook, and a big hello to you if you are watching there as well on the Esports Television Network, Motorsport TV, and TVM Sport, you'll have seen that he's got consistent pace. He's got good battling in him as well. It's just this time around, the nature of Zandvoort, very narrow, very flowing circuit. Then not many heavy braking zones, and that for overtaking, you put all of that together, and overtaking becomes a huge challenge, probably one of the most challenging circuits for overtaking we've got on the entire calendar.
I dare say, but like you say, Mills Metro is one of those tracks that's a bit more flowing and requires a bit more kind of pace and slipstreaming. So it's a very different style of circuit to Zandvoort. So it could be that that's where he really shines and dances off into the distance. We might see the likes of Mosqueda that gets involved in there. Despite his spin, I still think he's someone to watch. Judging by his pace, once the race was underway, but of course the mistake was already done. He was 10 seconds down the road, and he was never going to make up that kind of gap unless there was a colossal accident up front, which fortunately for the runners there weren't. But it just meant we couldn't really see his true pace shine. But I still think we've got plenty more to see from those that didn't quite get the limelight tonight. And hopefully they'll keep their heads in the right space, which is very hard to do. Let's not undermine the importance of the mental game. It's really important to keep calm, keep the cool, handle the pressure. Easy for me to say, but easy for us to say. Easy for us commentators to say. The little sim racing I've done, I know how easily I break when I've got someone bearing down on me, and it's not often when I'm at the front. So, being realistic about that. So I fully admire how well these drivers have done just in the first race alone. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing their performance as the season goes on.
Yeah, that AC in the centre there may have been turned up, but the heat was at the maximum there, especially for our race winner in Bernard Vella. But looking at the rest of the calendar, I mean, there's some great races coming up. We end it at Monza. That's the hour race. It's the only race in the calendar that's an hour long. Everything else is half an hour. But I mean, there's some great tracks to pick out just in that calendar alone there, Chris.
Oh, they're all amazing. And like we said at the beginning of the show, they're all very varied. You've got some longer, wider tracks. Monza, prime example. You've got the likes of Portland. Lime Rock is a very, very interesting one for these GT3s. I'm really looking forward to that one as well. And then you've got Loch Drummond, which not many people are going to know about. Portugal, love that circuit. So there's so much to look forward to. There always is here at World Pro Racing, in fairness. But as we said before, if round one's anything to go by, bring it on. I'll have all of it. Thank you very much.
Bring it on, says Mr. Chris Buxton. I have to agree with him. It's been great to see drivers so close together in qualifying. We saw a couple of mistakes in there, but eventually we saw a four-way battle for the lead. It was line of stern for the most part, but it really emphasised the fact that you could not make a mistake. Otherwise, you'll have been closed in very, very quickly.
As was proven, those little mistakes. I still think had Sheldon Scott Muscat just kept that last lap clean and maximised his pace, I think he would have come away with the win. And it was just that one mistake at the wrong moment that just costed the momentum that he didn't have enough time to recover from. Yeah. So I do believe that he had the pace to win that one. Not discrediting Bernard Vella, he did brilliantly well. What a start. Held it brilliantly, as we've mentioned before. Not discrediting any of our drivers, as we've said, that they've done brilliantly well just to get this far. It's very easy to think that based on one performance that some drivers are going to struggle. Not necessarily the case. As we say, Colin Foster, for all we know, had a technical problem that made his performance that much more difficult to deal with. We could well see he may be a god at some other places. So we will have to see. And we've seen it in other series as well. Dean Vella in one race is 12th, and then wins the grand finale in GT cars as well. You saw it yourself and said so yesterday. So anything can happen, as is true in the real world. The sim racing world emulates that perfectly well.
Yeah, I hear a legendary commentator said that anything can happen in motorsport, and it normally does. The great Murray Walker, with a great quote that really sums up motorsport entirely. Yes, he said it about Formula 1, but he used it for motorsport because it's so true. Anything can happen, you've got to be ready for it. And in the terms of Dean Vella, with Kirsten Abeya going across the front. No, Michael Murcieka going right across the front there. That was a terrifying moment there.
Oh, yeah, it was. It was so unbelievably close. Dean Vella must have thought his race was done at that particular point. So it was amazing to see that it didn't happen. But wow, that would have woken him up if he wasn't focused at that point.
Well, I think we've found an issue with the technical side. We've got a fix for it. Chris, I think you've got a chance to interview Sheldon Muscat, second place in the race.
Sheldon, are you with us?
Hello. Good evening, guys.
Hello, welcome to the booth. What a performance! Unsurprisingly, you had quite a lot of the limelight from tonight. Your pole time was just blistering. The only man in the 32s, and sadly just undid itself right at the beginning. Talk us through it at the moment. Are you happy with the performance? Are you frustrated? Where are you at the moment?
Well, I'm like in the middle of frustration and happiness. Yeah, that qualifying lap was pretty good. I was 4/10 off Q2, so yeah, it was quite a gap. But then at the start of the race, I messed up the start, and I couldn't overtake him around the outside. It was too risky to do that in the first lap, so I had to back out and settle for second place, and then try to attack, which I did a lot of times. But Zandvoort is pretty hard to overtake. It's a very hard track to overtake at because of the aerodynamic loss you will get, especially in these McLarens, which rely a lot on aerodynamics here.
Absolutely. You almost had Jason Muscat join you in your 3 wide into that turn one. That must have been quite a scary moment for you on the opening lap.
Yeah, I got a little hit from Jason, but that's okay. It's racing.
and so many times we saw you really close in on Bernard, particularly sort of in sector 2. I noticed that your pace was really hot, and you would close right in, but just didn't quite have the enough overspeed to come past him. That must have been very frustrating for you.
Exactly, and I messed up the tires as well. I was losing a lot of wear, and then I had to settle for second place, basically. I was still pushing it to the end, but the car was very unstable. I couldn't, perform those lap times that I was performing in the beginning of the race. I didn't have that enough grip to do so.
I see. So next time out, we are at Mills Metro. What are your thoughts towards this RF2 Classic?
Oh, I'm very looking forward to it. It's a nice track, a small track, if I remember correctly. A very narrow track as well, so we have to be careful there. It's not like Zandvoort. You have like a bit of a wide track in Zandvoort, but the Mills Metro Park is going to be a different challenge, definitely.
We wish you the best of luck for the next round and for the rest of the season. If this was anything to go by, we are very much looking forward to it. Thank you very much, Sheldon Scott Muscat.
Thank you, guys. Good evening. Bye-bye.
Well, there you have it then. Second place in the race. Maybe a missed opportunity, but he managed to come away with a smile on his face. That's exactly what you want to see.
Wasn't that, you see, it was halfway in between frustration and elation, and that was clear to see. But, I mean, what a performance. That was brilliant to see. But we have got our race winner, Bernard Vella, in the box with us. Mr. McGinley, all yours.
Thank you very much, Bernard. Can you hear us? Hoping you can. Not at the moment, so we'll waffle on just a little bit before we can before we hear from Bernard. But yeah, I'll have to comment again on Sheldon Muscat. He's looking forward to Mills Metro. It's a very he said it's a small track, narrow track, quite similar to Zandvoort. So sounds like it's going to be right up his street in qualifying.
Well, absolutely. But again, we don't know how other people feel about it. We may have an expert in that particular track in our midst already. As again, the great nature of having some lesser known names mixing in with the establishment. Like I said right at the beginning of the show, it would be very easy for some people to say, Dean Vella's race win yesterday and performances I've seen and commentated on of him, it'd be very easy to say, oh, well, he's in, it's an easy win. And it's the other Vella that's on the top spot that hopefully will be joining us shortly. But isn't that brilliant to see that we've got several people? And also something else I said is I don't think we'll have the same winner throughout. We had 4 cars all competing for that top spot quite a few times throughout the race. So, like we said earlier, yes, please, plenty more of that.
Yes, please, plenty more. Hopefully this time around we can speak to our race winner in Bernard Vella. Bernard, can you hear us?
Yeah, all good.
Bernard, well, okay, let's talk you through that race. Qualifying in second place, holding out for the win. You got the move done into turn 1. Talk us through your race, because that looked like hard work for you.
It was all about just managing the gap, making sure he doesn't get too close. And once he got a bit too close, I'll just push. And then once I get a bit of a gap, just take care of the tires and make sure I make it to the end.
What was your thoughts after qualifying? Because Sheldon Scott Muscat qualified by 3.5 tenths of a second ahead of you. Going into that race, does that have an effect on how you come into that first corner?
No, qualifying is not the race. It's about winning the race and not qualifying. So it's just about focusing on what's ahead and making sure you get that proper gap and winning the race.
And of course, you are the one with the first win in the championship. That must be a good feeling. We saw you across the line there. Was that a sense of relief, or was that the sense of the hard work paying off?
For me, it was a bit of a sense of surprise, because I didn't even do 10 laps of practice for this race because I had too much work at university. So I just had to make sure that during practice I got as many laps in to get as comfortable as possible. And then as the race went on, I just got more comfortable with the setup, and it was just plain sailing from there.
Plain sailing from there. But how do you manage that pressure from the likes of Sheldon Scott Muscat behind? But we saw towards the last 10 minutes there, that battle for the lead came in towards the top 4. How do you manage that pressure?
It's all about just making sure you focus on what's ahead of you and not what's behind. These types of races, you're always going to be close. You're not going to win by 30 seconds. So at this point, I've been doing sim racing for how long now? Like 3 years, and I've always been a really good qualifier. So I'm used to having to defend.
Great stuff. And how is the new facility down there? Obviously, you've got the first race win in the new facility now.
Yeah, it's quite nice here. We have all the setups here. Everyone's quite spaced out, making sure we're following all the regulations due to COVID. So yeah, it's really an enjoyable. It's really an enjoyable experience, and I hope to win more races in the future.
Well, Bernard, it's been a pleasure to talk to you. Congratulations on your first win of the championship, and look forward to seeing you at Mills Metro.
Thank you. See you next week.
So there you have it then, the race winner then, the first race winner in the new World Pro Racing simulation facility. Look pretty happy about that one, I reckon.
And he only did 10 laps practice. I look forward to seeing him do, win on a track he does know. My goodness me. But yeah, he's absolutely right. You don't win these races by a huge margin, generally speaking, unless there's been an almighty great incident or something, because the pack is so closely fought, and we saw that proven. So, but wow, he's a confident man, is Bernard Vella, and rightly so. Yeah, if this is nothing to go by, he's got a lot of pace under that right foot, and he knows how to defend when he needs to. He knows the lines he has to take to not defend fresh air and to keep those behind him. So yeah, I very much looking forward to seeing his progress.
We hope to see you back again as well as round 1 comes to a close. If you've been watching on YouTube, on Facebook and on Twitch, make sure you like, you subscribe, you do whatever you do to make sure you don't miss the next few races here. If that race was anything to go by, you won't want to miss it at all. As well, if you're watching on esports television, Motorsport TV and TVM Sport, mark the date down. This Friday, you won't want to miss that next round of the Malta National GT3 Championship, fueled by Enemed there. A big thank you to our sponsors as well in Gaming Malta, in the Malta Motorsport Federation, 3CX and Vibe. From myself, Kieran McGinley and Chris Buxton alongside, it's been a pleasure to bring these races to you. A big thank you to our broadcasting crew in Justin and Nathan Mifsud behind the cameras, and of course to our race directors in Adrian Figallo and George Muscat, and the team down at that new simulation facility. Well, we'll see you on Friday. Can Bernard Vella keep that progress up at Mills Metro? He looked pretty confident. He only needed 10 laps of practice to take the win today, and he defended like mad. Maybe Sheldon Muscat can force his way onto the top step of the podium. Can he make his way up the order? The only way you'll find out is here on World Pro Racing on Friday, when we head to the second round at Mills Metro. We'll hope to see you there. Until then, take care of yourself. We'll see you next time on World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.
premiumbeat.com.
Office without limits. Slash your telco costs. Boost agent productivity and customer service. Web conferencing for all. Never miss a call. CX, everywhere you go, on premise or in the cloud. 3cx.com.
aħna saħħalsulhom il-fuel. Ara ġej.
Wara ftit ġranet kellna rebbieħ ieħor fil-logħba tagħna kontra 30 sekonda bil-maqlub.
Suqu fuq ir-riserva xejdu le mhix se tieqaf.
Il-ġimgħa d-dieħla nkunu fuq pompa tal-Enemed oħra nagħtu xi ħaġa oħra.
Senna was a god. No one could even dream to follow him.
I'm from a very humble background.
The role of women at that time were really difficult.
This is so dangerous. You are risking not only your life, but also my life.
to the start.
World Pro Racing, where sim racing becomes real.